Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our final episode of 2024. I'm Damon Hatfield, and this week I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
Good to see you, Damon.
You as well. And this week we're joined by IGN's executive editor of tech, Bo Moore.
Hey, Damon.
And this week, Mark Cerny is back with a new presentation, a new video uploaded today. PS5 Pro Technical Seminar presentation is the name, if you'd like to give it a watch before you proceed with this one. It's about 37 minutes long. But he's talking about graphics technology. He's talking about the PS5 Pro and the sort of future plans they have to develop graphics technology. So, Bo, can you just sort of give us a top-level overview of what this presentation is all about?
Yeah, it was an extremely technical presentation. Mark Cerny, he said it was going to be a deep dive, and he dove deep. It really, he talked a lot about, basically this gave us a look at the technical details behind PSSR, the new upscaling tech that the PS5 Pro uses to achieve its goals of doing that 4K 60 at the best performance, getting that best of both worlds of performance and fidelity that it was trying to achieve. But in order to achieve that, it needed to do AI upscaling, basically, which is what PSSR is. And Cerny really went into in-depth in kind of the tech behind how that works.
And then tell us about the Sony's partnership with AMD.
Yeah, that was the little bit of news that came out of this presentation. If you stayed till the end, Cerny announced something called Project Amethyst. It is a strategic partnership, they're calling it, between Sony or PlayStation and AMD. So AMD, is the maker of the graphics chips that are inside the PS5 as well as the Xbox, and they also make graphics cards for PC. But so this is a strategic partnership where they will be sharing information, and basically with the goal of advancing game graphics, not just for PlayStation, but just advancing game graphics through machine learning, through AI in general. And that means that the learnings and the results of this partnership will absolutely be a part of, future PlayStation hardware, but it's not specifically locked to PlayStation. It could also show up in, future AMD PC cards and maybe even Xbox.
It does make sense that the mid-gen refresh, the mid-gen upgrade, is sort of a lower risk way of Sony to dip their toe in the water there, rather than introducing it in, say, the actual PlayStation 6, where the entire future of the PlayStation business is riding on it. This way, if there's anything that doesn't quite go how they want, or that they can see to tweak and improve, then they can be more confident with the PS6.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting, Cerny stressed that this is not to develop proprietary technology. This, theoretical graphics tech could be shared with other companies, including Xbox. So Ryan, it would be interesting if we have a situation in the future where PlayStation is sharing, Xbox is already sharing all of its games with PlayStation for the most part. But in the future, PlayStation don't want to share its games with Xbox yet, but it'll share its graphics hardware or graphics tech.
Yeah. Right? I mean, that'd just be better for everybody. But you're right. It's Sony. I think most Xbox gamers would be forgiven for thinking that Sony's going to have to show more than tell on that, given their track record of not wanting to share their toys with the other kids at the playground.
Yeah. Bo, tell us about this term flopflation that Mark Cerny likes to use.
So in his presentation, he was really talking about the teraflop number that gets thrown around in the console world. When these PS5 and the Series X were first announced, there was a big hullabaloo about, I believe it was 12 teraflops for the Series X, and I think 11.5 or 10.5 for the PS5. But the long and short of it, and the way Cerny breaks it down, I actually sat down with them, and he said teraflops are not a good indication of graphics performance just in general. It's a number that people like to latch onto because you can say, oh, this machine did some amount of quote unquote teraflops. It's a teraflop, it stands for trillions of floating operations per second, which is, it's one of the various many things that graphics hardware does in the process of rendering frames in our games. And so the flopflation specifically referred to when the PS5 Pro was being talked about. somebody latched onto, they took the amount that the PS5 was doing, and there was an inference that because the PS5 Pro was going to be on RDNA 3 and RDNA 2, which the PS5 was on, RDNA 3 is technically twice as powerful. And so there was basically they just took the teraflop number of previous, doubled it, but in reality, it was not an accurate measurement at all, because you could say, oh, the PS5 Pro has 33.5 teraflops, but it doesn't. The number might be double of what it was previous, but it doesn't mean that it has double the performance.
Sure. So after this presentation, in your Q&A, did you walk away impressed? Did you walk away feeling like Sony has ambitious plans for the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think that this partnership makes a lot of sense. It's the AMD has been providing the graphics hardware for the consoles for several generations now. Again, not just for PlayStation, but also Xbox. So they're absolutely working in that direction. Sony and Mark Cerny, he made it very clear that the future of graphics, of game graphics, pretty much in general, is in machine learning. He's using AI to enhance graphics because that's basically the main frontier that there is to still make advances on. Traditional rasterization, just rendering a frame, I don't want to say it's a completely solved equation, but we've definitely hit the point of diminishing returns in the hardware can only do so much to eke out another frame or two, whereas there's this whole untapped realm of using machine learning to improve your frame rates, improve quality and performance at the same time. And so that is the area that Sony is, that with the PS5 Pro, that was what they did. That's their first foray into it. And to have Cerny tell it, they know so much more now. And so the future is only going to be better.
So Ryan, what do you think are the conversations happening at the offices at Xbox today? Is Phil and his crew, is there any reason for them to be concerned about this partnership between Sony and AMD?
No, I'm sure they already know about it. I mean, they tend to, these companies tend to know on a general level what's going on with the other one, especially when they've got a common partner in AMD. So quick side note, is it too late in the year to call up Merriam-Webster and nominate Flopflation for a word of the year? Mm-hmm. Can we make a last minute push to make that happen? Because I don't know what the other contenders are, but I'd be hard pressed to hear a better new word in 2024 than Flopflation. I'm all about that. But yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about this is, again, if it will actually universally advance graphics and processing technology across the board and not just on a PlayStation unit, but the machine learning thing is an interesting thing to consider because the core gamer audience, and really I don't even think you have to limit it to there. I think it's most people in general, whether they create art, whether they consume art, are very allergic to the idea of AI replacing any of that. Mm-hmm. But we haven't really heard any trepidation from people about machine learning as it comes to the PS5 Pro or hardware in general, because I guess if I were to think about it, it's machine learning in the PS5 Pro and future console devices wouldn't be replacing human art. It would only be augmenting it, which is exactly what it's doing in the PS5 Pro now. So in that sense, as a total layman who doesn't know a 1/1000th about this stuff as Mark Cerny does, it definitely does sound like there could be a lot of potential there for optimization and improvement. And I mean, as a gamer, I'm sure probably a lot of developers would agree with this too. I wonder if there are any possibilities for machine learning to find ways to reduce development time, because that's, we're waiting longer and longer for these big games now. If I'm just I realize I'm on a little bit of a tangent here, but that's another place my mind goes, is just I wonder if there are applications for machine learning within game development that could help bring the development period on these big AAA games down, because it it just keeps going up and up and up. And boy, it sure would be nice to get major AAA blockbuster games every 4 years again instead of the 6, 7 we're kind of getting up to now.
Think about how long we've been waiting for Perfect Dark, Fable,
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. It's just, it takes forever to make these games.
The problem, though, Ryan, with that kind of line of thinking is, you say the type of AI or machine learning implementations that would potentially cut down on development time, that is also the type of AI that is potentially replacing a human development. Because
Well, we don't want that.
When we think about AI in terms of the way that it's used in gaming and when I say AI, machine learning in these contexts is effectively the same thing. So I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. And AI or machine learning in games has been around for several years. For anybody in the PC space, that's what DLSS is. It's deep learning super sampling. That deep learning is the AI component of the super sampling as a graphics technique. And all that is doing is ingesting frame data from the games that you're playing. The algorithm is learning from it and then extrapolating additional frames or making the image look better based upon what it knows about what it should look like. And the more games that it runs through the system, the better it gets. And that's why we've seen advances in DLSS in terms of the capabilities of what it can improve frame rates and improve graphics quality has improved greatly over the several years that DLSS has existed. But DLSS is an NVIDIA product, and NVIDIA is not in the consoles. AMD is in the consoles. And so that's why this partnership and, the PS5 Pro, the PSSR, the PlayStation implementation of a machine learning assisted super sampling is the first time that we've seen that tech on a console. But that's an entirely different thing than the type of generative AI, so things like ChatGPT or the image generation or video generation or things like that, where you're putting in a prompt and having the AI quote unquote spitting out some sort of output. They're just two completely different types of AI, but because they involve these, it is machine learning, it is algorithmically driven, they do technically fall under the same overall umbrella term of AI, but they're completely different things.
So, Bo, in your Q&A with Cerny, which our viewers can read on IGN.com, you seem to be able to extrapolate based on what he was saying, that it sounded like the PS6 was roughly 4 years away, but he declined to comment on that. What's sort of your reasoning for coming to that conclusion?
So in Cerny's talk, he was very clear. He said that console development is a roughly 4-year-long process. He said that they started work on the PS5 Pro about 4 years ago, which was right around the time that the PS5 was done. I mean, they were done working on the PS5 probably a year-ish before it actually came out. So if you look back on the timeline of when these things happened, it launched in November of 2019. They were probably done with it around November, December of 2018. So say beginning of 2023, beginning of 2019, they start work on PS5 Pro. 4 years later, was a year ago, the PS5 Pro came out. So we can now think, okay, then PS6, if that same logic holds, they're probably, already working on it now, and it would be about 3 to 4 years away. Mm-hmm. But Cerny, of course, gave me a big no comment.
Sure, of course. Ryan, do you feel like Xbox is on the sort of same timetable, or you think they'll want to get out there first?
I mean, they're working on a handheld. Mm-hmm. That's a whole separate sort of stream of hardware. They've branched before with the Xbox 360 famously, which there were many reasons for the 360's success relative to the PS3 and just in general. One of them was that they got out a year before Sony did. Mm-hmm. And, we're seeing Microsoft start to not play by the traditional console rules now, console generation rules, in terms of, like you were saying at the top, Damon, where the software lives. It's not just on Xbox consoles anymore. And it wouldn't surprise me, I guess is the short version, of if Microsoft might try to get going, and just break off from this lockstep hardware cycle, mainline hardware cycle with Sony. I mean, really, the original Xbox didn't come out when the PlayStation 2 did, and the 360 didn't come out when the PS3 did. It really was just the last two console generations. So there's recent history for that, but not really any sort of long established tradition or history of it. So yeah, I mean, my gut would lean towards no, that Microsoft might kind of veer off and do their own thing. I mean, the handheld is one sign of that. So we'll see. It's the hardware thing is always interesting to all of us, and I'm not expecting there to be any major new Xbox or PlayStation hardware in 2025. We've at least got the Switch 2 to look forward to.
Right.
But after that, who knows?
Well, in any case, exciting times ahead. Lots of stuff, lots of fun stuff for us to cover on this very show. It's fitting that we're ending the year on an episode looking pretty far ahead in the future, because we're going to be taking the next couple weeks off. And when we return in the new year, just like Ryan was saying, I think 2025 is going to be filled with lots of Switch 2 talk and lots of talk about GTA 6 and where's the best place to play that. And I'd like to see some new hardware. I'd like to finally get that Xbox handheld coming out in 2025. So lots to look forward to in the new year. Thanks to everyone for watching all these next-gen consoles with us all year long. Ryan and I were just talking about at the top of the show. It'll be coming up on our 5-year anniversary of the show in early 2025. So it's crazy. We never thought the show would be going on for as long as it did, but you all out there, you keep watching it. So we have to keep making it for you. So you keep watching, we'll keep making it. Thank you to both Ryan and Bo. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes in our LA studio to make this episode possible. My name is Damon. We'll be back next year with the latest news on all the latest gaming hardware. We'll see you then. Happy holidays, everyone.